was one of those after he was seen at a club earlier this week with no mask. And for more, let us go right to the story. Here's Adrian Wojnarowski. Woj, what is next now for Houston under these circumstances?
Well, Greeny, Houston, James Harden, they await the league's ruling perhaps as soon as today about how long James Harden's going to have to stay in, quarantine protocol and have to test negative for the coronavirus in consecutive days before he's cleared to return. Now, the Rockets travel to Portland tomorrow to play a Saturday game, and then to Denver Monday. There's real question whether he'll be cleared in time to play in either of those games. And right now, this is a Houston team that couldn't get 8 eligible players to play the Thunder last night, had the game postponed. And besides James Harden, they're waiting for other players who either have the coronavirus or who are in contact tracing protocol right now to become eligible again. So, a lot of challenges for this Rockets organization to start the season.
No question. And it feels to me like there are really two separate stories here. One of them is how do they get back to playing games again? We covered that. The other is how does this impact their ability to trade James Harden, who has made no secret of the fact that that's what he wants? What is the answer to that question? How does this affect that?
Well, I think in the short term, I think it curbs trade talks, at least for a few days here, as the Rockets and teams find out when exactly is Harden going to be eligible to return again. How long is he going to be held out by the league? And, remember, he's going to lose because this was a violation. Him being sidelined was a violation of their protocols. This is going to cost him about $573,000 a game for each missed game. But I think they were not close to a trade before this episode this week. They've been engaging with teams in both conferences. This doesn't get them closer to a deal. Teams are going to wait and see, certainly, when Harden would be eligible. And listen, the Rockets hope they could get some leverage back in trade talks by getting Harden and John Wall on the floor together, getting him playing well, and that's not the case to start the season.
Right. Doesn't feel like it's going to happen in the next day or two either. I want to show everyone what James Harden's response to all this was. He did post this on Instagram yesterday. I'll read it to you. One thing after another, I went to show love to my homegirl at her event, not a strip club, because she is becoming a boss and putting her people in position of success, and now it's a problem. Every day it's something different. No matter how many times people try to drag my name under, you can't. The real always end on top. So that is what he said. I want to bring Kendrick into this conversation as well. There's Big Perk with us this morning, and I just would like to give you the floor here, big fella. What is your reaction to all this?
I mean, it's a damn shame, Greeny. I mean, here you have a veteran guy who knows how to, approach the game, who I thought was a true professional, but right now he's dropping the ball. And it's a lack of leadership across the board in the Rockets organization. I know that the James Harden is a grown man, but you have to blame some of this on Tillman Fertitta because he gave James Harden an inch and he took him out, right? So when you look at James Harden, the thing that upsets me the most is that he's burning down the bridge that guys like Charles Barkley, Michael Jordan, Magic Johnson, Larry Bird paved the way for guys like him today to be able to get paid hundreds of millions of dollars. And what he's doing now, he's hurting the younger generation. You got to come on, James. You got to be more professional. In the words of my wife, when I be around here acting crazy, she tell me I'm tripping. You're tripping. You're tripping. Period, Greeny.
Could I ask you quickly, Kendrick? Because we know that, among other things, the man is a walking 30-point triple-double, and we assume he remains that. But the way he's handled his return this year, the shape that he appears to be in, and now this situation, if you're another team right now, Kendrick Perkins, does this impact how badly you want to bring him in a trade?
Absolutely. We know what we'll get out of James Harden between the lines. We know that he could, put the ball in the bucket once, one of the best to ever do it. But a lot of GMs right now, Greeny, are scared to trade for James Harden because of his off-the-court activities or festivities, should I say. And they don't want him to come in and be around their young guys and teach them bad habits. Like, you have to be more professional. So right now, a lot of GMs are turned off by the way that James Harden is acting.
All right, we will talk more about this as we go.
I wouldn't trade for him.
Well, okay, wouldn't trade for him. We'll talk more about this as we go. There was a great game last night we'll get back to, and Woj will come back to you as well as we continue. Guys, sit tight. Thank you. But let's get to the NFL now, because we're calling this playoff implication weekend. We got several games with major implications, including Titans, Packers, Sunday night. Tennessee can clinch a playoff berth with a win or a Ravens or Dolphins loss. Packers can wrap up home field advantage and a bye with a win and a Seahawks loss. Speaking of the Seahawks, they clinch the NFC West with a win against the Rams. LA can clinch a playoff spot with a win or a little other help. The Colts, meanwhile, play the Steelers. Indy can clinch the playoffs with a win and a little help. Steelers, losers of 3 straight, can wrap up the division with a win or a Cleveland loss. Meanwhile, here's Big Ben Roethlisberger on a players-only meeting he called to try to stop the bleeding.
So just wanted guys to understand and to reiterate how important this time of year is, and that the playoffs aren't guaranteed to anybody. So it wasn't a players-only panic meeting. Make sure people keep writing that this is a meeting that we felt was necessary moving forward to going into the postseason.
All right, and so here is the entire football squad. And Dominique, I'm starting with you because we talked about this morning. When he says it's not a players-only panic meeting, what do you say?
I mean, there's no such thing as a players-only non-panic meeting. Like, players-only meetings, like, they come about because the team is in disarray and somewhat in panic. If he just wanted to reiterate how important the playoffs are and how it's not just given, you can do that in the team meeting in the morning where the coaches are. You can do that in other meetings. When you want everyone out of the room but the players, it's normally because of some emotional component or some psychological component. There's some air that needs to be cleared. There's some tension between a position group or some tension between players and coaches. There's something that needs to be discussed. There's some sort of mindset switch that needs to be made. There's no point for a players-only meeting given what we know about their situation, because what we know about their situation is they have issues with injury and they have issues with performance. You can't talk somebody into performing differently. You can't talk someone's knee into being healthy. And unless one of those players has a time machine and can take Ben Roethlisberger back to when he could hold the ball for 5 seconds in the pocket and shrug off a defensive lineman, unless one of those players knows that, I'm not sure what they're meeting about.
Well, let's try and figure out what the panic is about. Louis Riddick, you had their game on Monday night. You and I were just talking before we came on. We were both shocked, frankly, at how bad they looked in Cincinnati. So if they are panicking at least a little, what should they be panicking about?
Yeah, probably a number of different things if you're going to use the word panic, although from talking to them, I really don't get the sense that they are panicking. But I will say this, their level of concern went up significantly on Monday night. And I think first and foremost for me, look, I'm worried about Ben, but I'm not like out of my mind worried about him, because I think, look, he's a professional, he's a Hall of Famer, he understands that he's not playing well. He gets that, and you could see that on Monday night. But the thing that I'm really worried about with that offense is this. Their pass protection for a team that throws the ball as much as they do, you saw what happened to it on Monday night. You saw their tackles just got absolutely just ran through all night long. Carl Lawson just tortured Villanueva, the left tackle. And you see it right here on the screen. So this week they go up against the Indianapolis Colts. Have you watched the Indianapolis Colts pass rush? Have you seen what they do to quarterbacks? That's the kind of thing that worries me. If they aren't able to strike better balance in the run game and take some of this pressure off Ben to where he's dropping back.